Good evening, everybody. It's 9:30 on the East Coast, 6:30 on the West Coast. It's time for your Calamity Jane live stream. James, how are you this evening?
Not bad. Not bad at all. How are you?
I am doing all right. Doing all right. I am ready to see what we're going to be working on, or you're going to be working on. I love how I'm going to take credit for it. It's sort of like, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy.
You get credit by proxy. It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Our show.
All right.
So,
So, okay, I just bear with me here. I have a pet peeve when
yeah.
husbands say we're pregnant. Like
Oh
I don't
god.
know, is it? No, she's pregnant. You're not pregnant. Now you are both going to be parents, but really all you did was like provide the seed for her egg to grow, and then she has to do the rest of it. And I get it. I mean, like he can be a good partner. He has to take care of her and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I always found we're pregnant to be somewhat presumptuous myself.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, they I guess creating something a lot of people will will say in jest that it is like birthing a child of some sort, but no, I don't think it. And
Okay.
we're guys here talking about this, and no, probably it's not even close to
All
that.
right. So you'll allow me to say what are we working on tonight?
Yeah.
All right.
So it's our show, so and and you have your creative vibes and energy if you want to get all what is it, new world, new agey or
New
something.
agey. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put those hats on. We're new agey and stuff. Yeah, it's our show. Blah blah. You're feeding me creative energy from the
I
cosmos.
mean, I do have crystals everywhere. They're just out of frame though.
There we go. So yeah. But what I will be working on tonight to ruin everything that we just said. What I'll be working on tonight is doing some animation stuff, but you'll be hanging out with me and we'll work on this together with your
Sounds
eyeballs and my eyeballs.
sounds
Sound
like a
good?
plan. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Our non-sponsor tonight is Blue Moon. Blue
Ooh,
Mango Wheat is what I'm drinking tonight.
mango wheat. That's a new one for
That's
me.
our, that's our non-sponsor for tonight because we don't have sponsors at all here.
No, no.
We're ad-free, radio-free.
I played poker last night and I didn't get home until very late, so I'm very tired. But one of my friends brought canned margaritas,
Oh,
and it
okay.
was surprisingly good.
Okay.
I mean, it's not like the best margarita I've had, but it was better than the margarita I had had earlier in the week, which was just watered down margarita mix.
Oh
And
gosh.
almost no booze in it whatsoever. So,
I, I was got confused about those canned margaritas. I thought you supposed to add more stuff to them, and they're just
no, it's a complete margarita. I mean, like, I guess you could add salt to taste, but no, you open it up and it's a pre-mixed margarita.
Hmm, that's interesting. Yeah. Maybe one of these days. I don't. It's not like I drink all the time or anything like that, but once in a while I do like to venture around and try different random stuff. So such as mango wheat blue moon. But yeah, maybe I'll give those margarita can things a try. I was always intimidated by it. I thought like, oh, I have to mix them and put them in a shaker or something or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Stay away from them. So meanwhile, I'll be working on. I'll pick up where we left off last week. Working on the pose of Calamity going down to grab a hose to feed Tinsel.
Okay.
So that's where we're at here. And while I go underway there, I do this question I was going to pose to you before we even started. But what's your for poker, right?
Mm.
Um, what do you think the skill set is? Like you said, you had a friend that cleaned house
Yeah.
and reputation for being good at poker. What do you think makes a good poker player? Is it the lying? Is that the most important asset to have, or is it the memorization of knowing what cards have been flipped?
I mean, I think it's a combination of both. I think they're both vital.
Yeah,
I think, there's also a benefit too of playing with people that you're familiar with.
yeah, that's true.
Over time, you will. Oh, excuse me. Like I said, tired. Over time, you start getting a sense for some of their behaviors and like, oh, I know that when he has this set of cards in his hand, he tends to do this and that kind of stuff, right? So knowing who you're playing against is super valuable. But yeah, I mean, like looking at being able to see the percentages, right, it's sort of this battle of what's the word I'm looking for? It's this battle of wits in a sense, right? So you've got someone, let's say someone who is um, saying that they've got the flush, right? Like so there's three hearts on the board, and they raise enough that you're like, okay, they're saying that they've got the two extra hearts and they're going to have the flush, right? You're going to be thinking about the probability of them getting those two hearts compared to what you have. If you're still in, you have something. So maybe you got the straight, right? So you have the straight, but you're the other player is presenting like he pulled the flush, and you're like, okay, does he really have the flush, or is he trying to bully me out of the pot? And at some point you have to take the gamble and go, all right, looking at this, knowing the history of how my buddy plays, I think that I've got it, and then you call the straight, and then he was either bluffing or not bluffing, but by that point, you're committed. So
Yeah.
but it's definitely a mix of knowing who you're playing against, knowing the percentages of the cards on the table, and just how well or poorly do you or your friend can they bluff.
Huh. Yeah, I can see that because if you're amongst friends, yeah, you definitely know their mannerisms by then, and you can read them and all that stuff. But if you're going to Vegas, it's completely cold turkey, right? You're going against the table that you have no idea who's who. So then it does come down to just trying to remember which cards to put down, I guess.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. Thinking about that is definitely key.
huh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're awake enough to hang out for the street. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'm not as articulate as I usually am. I feel like it took me way more sort of interstitial grunts and ums and to get through that conversation than it usually takes me. So, uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, can't win them all. Can't win them all.
Well, no. I will say just uh, for minor for a minor update. I finally did beat Elden Ring, completely platinum the game. Like got every single trophy on my PS4, everything.
Oh yeah.
Um, I should probably, and I was complaining about that Millennia boss.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and beat that Millennia boss naked build, meaning he had no armor, nothing like that. I did have a weapon to cheese her with,
Mm-hmm.
and I gladly did that because my battle with her became a mockery. Like I mocked the battle for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
thought it was the third fight. So no armor, went in. Just I would get one shot at. I didn't care, and I just had this one weapon where it has I can't remember the name of it. It's some sort of tooth, adult bull tooth type thing. But there's a gravity bolt attack from ranged, so you don't have to actually go in and fight her hand to hand.
Mm-hmm.
So I treated it like that, and then pretty much, and then summoned. You have these characters you can summon as you upgrade them as you play the game. So I use one of them as well, and then beat the game. So that's all over with. Elden Ring's over with. I would have to say, after playing it, I would put it in the middle of the pack from software titles. It's probably better than Dark Souls 3 for me. But,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it doesn't. It's not as good as Dark Souls 1, 2, or Bloodborne. All three. I had Sekiro. Sekiro was amazing too.
Mm-hmm.
It's lower tier. Even though they have there's some additions that are nice and some luxuries of life that are nice. Overall, I don't know. Again, my feelings are still the same. It just I went through the final bosses. They were fun, but I think it's kind of time for Miyazaki to figure out a new type of game to set up because it became more of a chore to play and finish it.
Mm.
Like, for me.
Well, that's disappointing to hear.
Yeah, but people love it, and
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, given how successful it is, I wouldn't expect Miyazaki to change his formula up for the time being.
I don't blame him. I mean, this is just for me, and I know they have plans to try to do spin-offs for books and movies and stuff like that. And I'd probably even casually watch that stuff if they're on, and wait for word of mouth. Who knows? But
Yeah, George R. R. Martin had something to do with the story, right?
yeah. But as I played it, it felt to me like a typical From Software game at this point.
Hmm.
Lore building, everything else. Like it made me wonder, like, what did George R. R. Martin contribute to this game that feels different than any of the other Dark Souls series or Bloodborne series I've played? Because they've all had the story pacing and the way you get the story, which is pretty much off of reading and finding items in the wild and stuff like that, was very much the same in this game. And
Hmm.
I love Dark Souls lore in the first game, which I'm assuming I give credit to Miyazaki and the entire team that does stuff there. Who I don't know who is a writer or what,
Yeah.
but um, the Elden Ring's story, macro story, is about the same. About the same as Dark Souls. I like Dark Souls a little bit better, but that's mainly because of playing through 3 iterations of it now. So maybe that's the reason why. But
Hmm.
it was fine. It was good, but I don't know if I'd be. I don't know. I don't know. I don't feel like. I feel like Martin's name was attached mainly to sell copies of the game and get other people that wouldn't pick up a From Software game to pick it up. Is what I felt playing it.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah,
They
it's
do
really
that all
fun.
the time, where they'll
Yeah,
like hire an actor to be in one scene of a movie and then put
yeah.
his name or her name at top billing and that kind of stuff.
I think it's a smart strategy. To it'll help sell copies, help expose your game to a different audience. I think that's great. Um, so, but yeah, I'm very curious, like who wrote what, because it felt if I didn't know Martin's name was attached to it, I wouldn't have not I would have been nonplussed. It just felt like a typical Souls game.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah, the George R. R. Martin thing sounds kind of like when they put Yul Brynner's name on the front of Future World, the sequel to Westworld.
Huh?
And he wasn't even in the movie. It was a
Oh,
flashback. It was a flashback to Westworld, but because he was technically in Future World, because of this flashback to the previous movie, they
wow.
gave him like top billing in the credits.
I know. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
But yeah, talk about two really fun. I really okay. So Westworld, I loved.
yeah.
And Future World gave me nightmares when I watched that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it just freaked me out. The replacement theory, with robots replacing all the humans and making facsimiles of each other, like it just freaked me out as a kid watching it.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, we're speaking about the original films from the late 70s and early
Yeah,
80s, not the HBO show. So
the HBO show started off with a bang and then it just completely fell
I
apart.
really liked season one and then didn't come back when every single person I know said exactly what you just said, that it didn't, it lost its mojo really fast and just didn't know what to do with it.
Great cast, great talent. For the show, the writers completely pooched it on season 2. Like I don't think they knew what they were doing or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
I didn't bother finishing the show. I don't even know what happened. I don't care. I mean, even they tried to even get the actor that played Jesse, who's a great actor, for season 3 or something like that.
Oh, yeah, Aaron Paul was in season three.
Yeah,
That's right.
Paul.
Yeah.
Not enough. Like I watched one episode with him in it. He's a great actor, but no, it really comes down to the writing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, actors can only do so much if the source
Yeah,
material is not there, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
they can be the best actor in the world, and if it's just a really bad script, there's only, you can only go so far with it. I mean, Nick Cage I think is a classic example. I mean, when he wants to be, he is an exceptional actor, but he also
Yeah.
just takes on these bizarre roles, um, there's only so much he can do with what he's got from the script.
Yeah, which is kind of weird because it feels like to me a lot of actors take on like any like they'll say yes to anything. I feels like maybe I don't know. For
Mm.
me, casual from afar. Samuel Jackson comes to mind. Feels like
Hmm.
that guy does everything. He's always working. Or Nicole Kidman, always working. And some of their projects are the stuff that they do are not great, but then they still manage to get into really good stuff. Whereas Nick Cage, though, what happened? Like he was like on top of the world for a little bit, and then all of a sudden that's it. Now he's just B movie all the time.
I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard Pig is excellent.
Pig, I've never even heard of this movie. What is this?
He's a truffle farmer whose pig is stolen from him, and he's a kind of a recluse, and he lives out in the wilderness. And the theft of his pig is sort of the inciting incident, and he goes back into this world that he's abandoned to try to find his pig and bring it home. It's not a horror movie. It's not an action movie. It's an actual character drama with a
Yeah.
very weird premise, but it apparently is quite good.
So it's like Babe, but really really serious, kind of. Like
No, no, not really. It's more like trying to think of an equivalent movie. I mean, it's basically it's him. I haven't seen the movie, so I can only speak
yeah.
to what I have heard about it. But it's very much a character drama of him coming to terms with the loss of his closest friend, and it's a movie about loss. It's a movie about loss and trying to figure out what your purpose is after you suffer a great trauma like that.
Okay. And
It's a
so,
drama. It's not a comedy, right? It's not tongue in cheek. It's a straight film,
huh.
and Cage is supposed to be phenomenal in it.
Yeah, because he's always been talented. That's just so weird.
Yeah, yeah. And I went and saw the unbearable weight of massive talent, and that was okay. It was about exactly what you would expect from it. It was only 90 minutes long, so it's not a huge commitment of time. You know, Nick Cage is doing his best parody of himself, which is, your mileage will vary on that. Pedro Pascal was phenomenal
Mhm.
in it. Just a phenomenal actor. And
Yeah.
Tiffany
No.
Haddish and Ian What's His Face from the After Party were both in it, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah. What
Um,
who's that?
he,
Who's
he,
he?
he played the jerk ex-husband who had an affair.
Oh, okay, okay, got it. Yeah.
I don't
I
remember
think
his last name.
his name is Troy. In that his character was Troy, but he's
Yeah,
very good. Yeah, he's
yeah.
a great comedic actor for sure.
They were kind of underutilized. They were more like foil characters to help drive the plot forward. Uh,
Okay.
but it was fun. It was disposable. I don't really remember much about it already. Um,
Oh, okay.
but I did. It was entertaining for the time that I was there, right? But I mean, for me, like movie theaters are kind of like church for me, right? I go in there and it's this quiet room, and everybody in the space is there for a reason. All
Yeah.
the attention is directed towards this one object, instead of an altar and a priest. It's the film, and there's a quiet peacefulness to it, right? And I have actually found myself like, yeah, I have a lot of chronic pains um, that are exacerbated by stress, and 2022 has been a remarkably stressful year for me, and so this chronic pain has been really flaring up and has been for months. And I'll go see a movie and it actually calms down because being in the theater calms me. Um, and so yeah, it was just interesting. I had that observation, and I think it rings pretty true for me at least.
Huh. That's cool. I mean, at least you found at least some sort of therapeutic device to help you calm your nerves a little bit.
Yeah, in addition to my therapy, my psychiatrist, my exercise, and my every other week massage.
Hey, it's important, man. So
Yeah, no, I know. I spend too much money on self care, but I think it's vital.
yeah, that's good.
But well, for my part, on the games front, I'm playing an old game that recently got a massive update called the Stanley Parable,
Mhm.
and it is interesting. I played it way back in 2013 when it originally came out, and it was a Half-Life 2 mod. Now they have since gone back and redeveloped it using Unity, um, but it still has kind of that feel of just indie game creation, like true indie game creation, not what amounts to indie game creation these days, like a real kind of garage game.
Okay.
But the premise is you are this just peon working out at a generic corporate office building, and then the game starts, and all of a sudden this narrator starts narrating your actions. And as you move through the world, the different choices that you make affects how the narrator behaves to you, how the world changes, and ultimately, there's a bunch of different endings that you get depending on the choices that you make, and the commentary, is sort of like it's remarkably like Severance, which we've talked about.
So,
Um,
one question for you. You
yeah,
say you start talking about a textual prompt that shows up and narrates what you see on screen, or actually you hear audible?
there's a narrator who does VO, and
Oh,
he's a I don't know who the guy is. He's British. He's a phenomenal voice actor and great sense of comic timing. It's actually, and I rarely say this about video games. It's actually legitimately funny.
what?
Yeah, it is legitimately a funny game. And a lot of that has to do with the writing, but a lot of it has to do with the way this voice actor delivers the writing, right? And you know, it's interesting that it kind of goes back to what we were talking about, that an actor can only do so much with bad writing, but
Mhm.
an actor can do way more with good writing. You know, if they have something to work with, they can really take that good material and just bring it up to the next level.
Mhm. Mhm.
And the Stanley Parable really delivers on it. But you know, Severance is a dark, very dark satire about the nature of the meaninglessness of the corporate world and
Yeah.
what it means to be sacrificing, you know, almost half of our lives to sitting in these cubicles doing work that who really cares what it is, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
There's no meaning to life anymore. It's been stolen from us in a sense, in the sort of traditional corporate world sensibilities.
Is this your observation, or are you talking about? Is this how you interpret it, or is this what you did you read about this from what the writers were going after? Or
Oh no, this is my interpretation of it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I hear you. I mean, I'm with you.
And the Stanley Parable, in a big way, it discusses those same kind of existential quandaries, but it does it in a much more kind of silly way. But it's actually nonetheless effective, and it's one of those rare instances where a video game actually successfully uses the mechanics of the game to interactively make you feel a certain way,
Huh.
right? Um, I mean, the other example that I use all the time is Bioshock, where you just simply by playing the game are doing exactly what the story has is telling you to do, and in a silly, not in a silly way, but a really cool way. It's the Bioshock. The sort of the meta analysis of Bioshock is that by playing a video game, you are essentially sacrificing free will. You think that you have free will while you're playing a video game, but you don't. It's all curated by a designer and by a programmer and by a writer, right? And so you play through this video game making quote unquote choices, but ultimately everything is preordained.
Hmm. Hmm.
And you know that's basically what the story of Bioshock is, and that's the underlying commentary of Bioshock. Obviously, the story is more about a dystopian underwater world that experimented with objectivism and failed miserably. Um, but the underlying reality, the underlying metaphor is really cool. And the Stanley Parable is another really great example where the creators use the actual mechanics to enhance the story that they're telling.
Hmm.
So
So you said you beat it all every version of the endings. You found all of them, or
yeah, so the it just came out on the Switch and I presume other platforms. I picked it up on the Switch because you know it's why not. It's not a graphics heavy game, so there's no reason to buy it on my PC.
uh-huh.
Um, and it's called the Ultra Deluxe Edition. So it has the complete original game,
Hmm.
and it also has uh, um, an entirely new section that it's not really a spoiler because you figure it out pretty quickly, but it's basically an entire sequel to the game. In fact, like when you cross a certain point in the new content, it actually changes the title screen to say the Stanley Parable 2. So it's really interesting, and it's that same kind of tongue in cheek presentation that the Stanley Parable is kind of renowned for. It's a bit of an indie darling. It's got a bit of cachet in the indie game world.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's very funny, very very enjoyable, very different from something like Elden Ring. one of the gags in the game is that you can't jump. And like
Okay.
they are aware of this and they point it out and they're like they talk about the fact that you can't jump.
That's funny. In Dark Souls, up until Elden Ring, you couldn't jump either.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting though.
Uh, yeah, that's hilarious. Uh,
But, yeah. But yeah, that's what I've been. Other than continuing to watch South Park when HBO Max isn't crashing, um, that's mostly what I've been doing. I've been, other stuff too. I went on some hikes last week, and that was fun and all that jazz. But mostly, like my real time is being occupied with South Park and the Stanley Parable when I'm not working.
yeah, yeah. So are you done with? Are you pretty much wrapped up with Stanley Parable and looked at another game or what?
No, I just started the new content.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I'm in between games right now. I'm debating what I'm going to pick up next. I tried picking up Dark Souls 3 because I still had DLC to play, and I played about 5 minutes of it where I left off just to kind of get a feel for it. And you know what's funny is so Dark Souls 3 was released 6 years ago, I think, or something.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, when after playing Elden Ring, I gotta say, it looks dated. Some games can look timeless. You can play them almost at any time and they're fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Coming from Elden Ring to Dark Souls 3, which isn't too many iterations ago, um, yeah, it was funny how much of a change it felt. It felt more clunkier. Yeah, I felt kind of like a video game snob. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to play this. Like, I don't know. It could be that I also had death fatigue from playing Elden Ring for so long. I'm just kind of over the whole let's play a game and wait for a window to pick away at a health bar and then keep going. I could be just burned out. Maybe I'm just looking for something else completely different. So I'm kind of nerding out right now, and I'm actually reading. A book, Guardians of the Galaxy, No Guts, No Glory, or something like that, which is a prequel to another PS4 game that I have sitting on my shelf for Guardians of the Galaxy, which is this opens up a whole other realm of conversation as well. But I'm kind of a nerd this way. I want to read a novel, a prequel to a video game with reading this novel. Then I'll play the video game, and then I'll then I guess hopefully I get maximum enjoyment that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Inside jokes. Also, this game, this Guardians of the Galaxy game, I think I already told you, like we talked about this a couple of streams ago. I'm getting 2 copies of that, so I owe you this game. I'm supposed to mail it to you.
Oh, you don't owe me anything, but I will accept it if you send it my way.
Yeah. But I told you that I was gonna send it to you. And I haven't done it yet, but I need to do it. But now it's even more fun because it could be more of a sinister plot because now I can force you to play the game at the same time I do. And maybe we could just kind of go back and forth with it. There's no pressure to beat it or anything at the same time or anything.
Well,
But
it'll probably take me 10 years. I mean, it'll take me 10 years to update my PS4. I haven't turned it on in over a year, so.
yeah, so I got that going for me, I suppose. But yeah, I'm just kind of hanging out and reading the novel right now, and it's okay, it's fine.
No, you
But
need a palate cleanser sometimes.
what's that?
You need a palate cleanser sometimes, doing
Yeah,
something different.
exactly what it's doing. Yeah. So, but this also goes to another point too. I don't know if you heard the news, but I guess the SquareSoft sold off like their Western division of people like that made Guardians of the Galaxy, for example, or also produced Tomb Raider or something like that. Did you hear about this today?
Yeah, I didn't read the story, but yeah, some corporation that I've never heard of. It's like
Yeah.
it's like some generic. It's like I don't even remember what the name of it is, but it's like this is definitely a shell company.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like some media conglomerate bought all of Square Enix Western developers, including Crystal Dynamics, who
Yeah.
do the Tomb Raider games and did the Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Yeah, which is weird. And then I saw the price tag. I mean, this is based on me watching other YouTubers, but the price tag was like 300 million.
Yeah, it was a lot.
See, I don't know if it was really. It didn't feel like that much compared to like what you're getting. You're getting like Tomb Raider, right? Which is a huge storied franchise. You'd think that that alone would probably be worth. I'm just spitballing, but I would think that's worth 100 million easy or more because of everything they've done with that property.
Oh, I thought you said 300 million.
Yeah, 300 million.
Yeah, that seems about right for that. I mean, it's
think-
not Halo. I mean, it's not Bungie we're talking about here. which
Yeah.
who bought Bungie? Someone just bought Bungie. Sony just bought Bungie for
How much
like,
it
oh god, hold on, I can Google it.
right?
How much did Sony buy Bungie for? 3.6 billion.
See, I mean, I just like this. Again, I'm long in the tooth, but Tomb Raider's been around for
Yeah.
the '90s, and they've spawned movies. They've done reboots. You would think that 300 million price tag would be a little higher just for that IP alone. And they got other IPs too. That's what I
Yeah.
mean. Like,
Well, it's nothing compared to what Microsoft spent on ZeniMax, which is Bethesda's parent company, 7.5 billion.
see, like, so what? So that's why I feel like it's cheap. They got Tomb Raider and a bunch of companies, well, a bunch of IP for cheap. Is what it seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Square Enix was just trying to get rid of it, but also, like the third Tomb Raider reboot didn't really light the world on fire. I mean, I think people liked the first one, and then with every subsequent one, people were like, okay, this shtick is kind of getting old. And the Avengers game that Crystal Dynamics did was a complete flop.
Yeah, I
And the
know.
Guardians of Galaxy one, people seem to enjoy the cutscenes a lot.
Mhm.
But the gameplay is pretty by the books.
Pretty standard game, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing particularly revolutionary or interesting about it, and not even, and to be clear, not every game needs to be reinventing the wheel. In fact, I think that that's a bad thing. But what they do is so normal that it really just doesn't add anything to the conversation, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because you can be interesting and new without without having to reinvent the wheel. And I get the sense that people are like, yeah, this was fun. So it's sort of like how I felt about the unbearable weight of massive talent. I was like, yeah, this is fun. I've already forgotten it. So
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was interesting to see. But yeah, maybe yeah, it is kind of sketchy. I never heard of the company before, either.
yeah, I haven't.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, we'll see. But it seemed like the biggest name that they had there was Tomb Raider. I don't know what else. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Tomb
Really.
Raider. I mean, maybe Gex. Crystal Dynamics did Gex back in the day.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I guess. Yeah. That was a back. It felt like more innocent times for video games, but everybody's trying to make a character.
That's right. Everybody wanted to make the next big franchise character.
Yeah, everyone wanted Mario. Everyone wanted to create Mario. So Sega was the only one that really, to me, successfully did that because by the time Crash Bandicoot showed up, it's like, yeah, nobody wants
Yeah,
Crash.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Sonic survived, so that was cool.
yeah.
I mean,
Sonic worked.
yeah, Crash still gets games, I guess, once in a while, but like, yeah, but is he really in the same tier as Mario and Sonic? No, not really.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
So, yeah, yeah, interesting. Yeah. So, meanwhile, over here, I got this post down, but then I realized even last week that I didn't do her tail yet. So I had
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
so there we go. We have her tail now finally.
Nice.
So
I love that little flop at the end there. That's a great touch. Yeah.
yeah, that's. I know you and I have talked about this because her tail needs to feel burdensome. And,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I had to add a little extra at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. Just to give it that weight that it needs to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So
That's
yeah.
good. I mean, that was a lot to accomplish in 30 minutes. Well, I guess 33 minutes according to YouTube.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, no, it turned out really well.
Yeah, I'm happy with this too. Like I said, I'll keep going. And for next week, I'll keep going. I mean, I have this post built out. I'll
Mm-hmm.
do the rest of this, and we'll get her to feed. So you can see here underneath on the animatic here, she'll feed the hose to Tinsel,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and we cut to the
And then we're
bar.
inside the bar. Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll keep on trucking.
All right. Well, thanks for drawing and giving us some video while we ranted about random things. And we'll be back next week at the usual time, everybody. You can find us on Patreon. Just go to calamityjane.rocks and that'll take you to our Patreon site. Please consider becoming a subscriber. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Stay safe out there, everybody. Good night.
Good night.